Hi, I'm Rob from HopZine.com. Thanks for joining me live, slightly delayed, sorry about that, for this live Google Plus and YouTube Hangout. We're going to be talking about the best IPAs that me and my esteemed group of fellow beer tubers have been drinking in 2015. So let's first off say hello and find out what we're drinking. So first up, Simon, Real Ale Craft Beer.
Hi, how's it going? You know, I'm gonna be very different and just show you a couple of beers that are not IPAs for the moment, and I'll leave the IPAs till last. The first beer I've started drinking tonight was the Erdinger Dunkel. Pretty unimpressed with that, to be honest. I was expecting a little bit more. I got a little bit less. Then we moved on to the Heretic Shallow Grave Porter.
It sounds kind of metal.
Really good, really good. Next up was a beer from Germany which was called Prototype, and that was a hoppy lager. That was absolutely fantastic. 5.9%.
Hoppy lagers.
25 IBUs, but it was more. It tasted more like, I don't know whether it was just to do with the lager malt in there or the lager yeast, but it tasted more like a 40, 50 IBU beer. And then we finished up with the Rundine Black IPA, and that's a 7.4 IBU, 67 IBU beer from Brewhaus Bevog. And I called it Germany, but it's actually Austria.
Yeah, I'm convinced it's either like Slovenian or Estonia or something as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah. I've had some beers from them. Not bad, not bad. I've not had the black IPA though. But yes. So next up, Peter, the Master of Hoppets. What are you drinking at the moment, mate?
Omnipolo. One of my favorite European breweries at the moment. They frickin' rule. This is their, well, it's not an IPA, but it's hoppy. It's their 420. It's in the Magic Number series, and this is a vanilla waffle wheat ale. It's kind of like their tweak on a pale wheat ale, which is like one of the worst styles. Well, one of the more boring styles. But this is actually pretty cool. It's made with oats, wheat malt, lactose, and vanilla, and then they use a ton of biscuit malts in there. So that's really nice. It's very, very hoppy. It's only like 5.2%, but it's got a really kind of nice chewy mouthfeel from the wheat and the oats.
Yeah, I've had a few of the Magic Numbers series. See, it's a funny one. I don't think any of them have quite kind of hit what they're promising, because it's like raspberry smoothie IPA and that's a vanilla waffle IPA. That was one of my favourites. It doesn't taste like waffles, and it's not.
No, it tastes.
It's a nice hoppy pale ale.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really nice hoppy pale ale. I think this one, along with the Magic 90,000, are my favorites in the Magic Number series so far. I also have a bottle that I'm going to be cranking after this, which is the 411, which was kind of disappointing. It was pretty nice, but a little bit disappointing.
What was that one?
It's like wild rhubarb and raspberry smoothie IPA.
Ah, okay.
But I think a lot of those. Oh, I think Deck is coming on now.
Oh.
Come on, Jack.
You can do it.
We are currently willing our fifth member of the panel, Jack Walker, to join us. I'm sure he will eventually. He'll figure it out.
But yeah, 411 was kind of an odd one, but yeah.
So next up, we've got Nitch from Tasting Nitch. How are you doing? What are you drinking?
I'm drinking sort of local stuff. I got these Belgio Sapiens. They're pretty new. It's interesting. They're using Belgian yeast, but they're just trying to kind of throw in some other stuff in here. The IBUs on this one's 30, so it's a Belgian lager, 30 IBU. So they're all their beers have been a little bit metallic, but they upplay the hops a lot, which is interesting. At least, so they're kind of still drinkable just because they're just killing my palate with hop character, even though it's not super bitter. And then a little bit earlier I was drinking these guys, which is they're just like contract beers. I think it's this weird phenomena where it's just one brewery I've discovered that just allows pretty much anybody to put a label on their beer. And so I've had these same beers with different labels now, like 4 times. Yeah, so that's interesting. At least it's consistent.
See that? I mean, I don't know if it's is it just like the same beer with just a different label on? Because I know in Poland a lot of the little kind of brewing projects all use the same facility in Poland, don't they, Simon? Like it's the same place. I think Kingpin are the main people, but it's the same place.
This is the same beer. It's like the same. They don't even brew it. It's like this.
Really?
Oh, this actually says it was an IPA, which it didn't taste IPA-ish. But it's just the same beer. It's all done by, it should say on here, Ogmo. So it's like a Belgian kind of deal. But this is probably, like at least the third time I've had these specific beers, just with different labels. And I think they kind of sell it that way. They sell it like we make the beer, you put your label on it, you sell it when we, I'm sure there's like a price differential there that they just split with each other. Because I know that People's Drugstore has these same ones and they just like put their own label on them. But I mean, they're kind of drinkable and they're totally fine. So let's have for local beer. Yay!
So I guess the subject of today, as I'm sure everyone's aware, we're going to be talking about I might have been slightly misleading. We're not going to say what's the best IPA. It's all very much personal experience. We've all got very different experiences. Actually, funnily enough, I mean, if Jack and Adam were here, they probably had quite a similar kind of opinions to me. I'm sure we have probably drank a lot of the same beers, but I know Peter has been drinking a lot of amazing stuff recently. Simon drinks a lot of different stuff that I do, and obviously Niche, based in Paris, will do as well. But I guess the reason why I came across this, and this is why I'll get onto the beers that I'm drinking at the moment. So I just did a little video beforehand, because recently there's been two amazing IPAs released in the UK. First one being Brewdog's Born to Die 27/11/2015. So that's essentially their version of Stone's Enjoy By. And then there's this one, which is Cloudwater out of Manchester, and that's the double IPA, which was released last Saturday. And I've just been absolutely blown away by them. I mean, before I had the Cloudwater, I said the Brewdog was probably the best British IPA I've ever had. And then this turned up last weekend, and that's blown my socks off as well. So I just did a little side by side of that, and obviously I've been watching Peter reviewing all this awesome stuff from kind of. Is it kind of New England area where like Trillium and Treehouse is?
Massachusetts, but it's kind of like in the New England hoppy style. But yeah, Massachusetts, Boston, Massachusetts, and some other place. I can't remember what the city is where Treehouse is from, but Trillium is from Boston.
Okay, but it's very much kind of East Coast, isn't it? Everybody had the kind of obsession with West Coast IPA.
Yeah,
it's definitely been a shift in that direction.
It's changed a lot. For me, originally East Coast was something completely different when I think back 5 years.
Well, I guess as you're talking about it right now, so far this year, you don't have to give me like a top 5 or whatever, but what IPAs have particularly stood out for you this year?
Well, now, like recently, I've had so many great IPAs. But if we take aside like the Treehouse and Trillium stuff, one that really blew my mind was Unhuman Cannonball from Magic Rock. Actually, that was freaking amazing. That is the best triple IPA I've ever had. Mainly because I think when people do triple IPAs, it's barley wines. They have made it in a way that it's light on the body but tons of hop flavor. That was awesome. Great beer. And other than that, if we're also not speaking the U.S., probably also something like Ama Boyku Batch 1000. That is one of the best single IPAs I've had this year from Europe. But if we're talking U.S., Treehouse in Perpetuity and Trillium Headroom. Holy fuck balls. And a lot of people have been like, oh, are they hyped and overrated? And I got comments about that too. And seriously, no. I had actually yesterday, I had a Treehouse beer and 2 other Vermont IPAs that were super hoppy and over the top and whatnot. The Treehouse beer was an American Pale Ale. The Treehouse beer was an American Pale Ale. The other 2 were double IPAs. For me, the Treehouse
I keep hearing about
American Pale Ale was even better than the crazy double IPAs, which was insane. It's just so different because it's like soft yet complex flavors, and the mouthfeels are really nice, and there's like no malt. It's just hop juice. And I kind of have a small theory about how they do that, like have the fresh hop flavor. But I'm not really sure because like when you get to the bottom of the can, if you sip it out of the can, it's very bitter. So I'm wondering if they actually like dry hop it in the cans or something to get that intense freshness. Because it's like towards the bottom, it was almost like you got pieces of hop matter or something in your mouth. It's like, whoa, that's like so bitter and weird. We just tried swigging from the cans for fun when it was almost done. It's like, But I don't know how they do it. I know the body is lots of wheat and oats, and then they use like not USO5 like many people in Europe use, but like some other white labs yeast strains, preferably like English ale yeasts actually. But yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The two best for sure is In Perpetuity and Headroom. But I still have more to go through.
Cool.
So.
Well, what an absolute pain! I'm sure that has been currently an absolute hardship.
First world problem.
So so he's finally joined us. I think you are. Jack, are you there?
Hello.
Quite still. Hey, he's here.
It's still laggy. Yay! Oh, we're good.
It don't matter. We can hear you. It was worth the wait. Jack Walker, Bear Beer Reviews. What are you drinking?
Well, seeing as though it's IPA night, I thought we'd better go for this little fellow, Cannonball, Magic Rock's little entry, in the nice cans and also
There's
in a glass.
conversation.
I must thank Stu. Even though he's the grumpiest sod in the world, he gave me one of his glasses from the tasting room, which is cool. So it's awesome.
He's a grumpy sod.
But lovely. He's like a grizzly bear. You don't want to hug him too often.
He is. No. So that's a conversation for later. Especially if Adam turns up. Magic Rock cans. Cannonball. I've had a bad experience. Anyway, Simon, what have been your favourite IPAs this year?
Beginning of the year, for me was the Kingpin Rock and Roller. I know you had a bad experience with that beer. It might have been batch 4 or whatever of it, but back in the beginning of the year, it was a really good beer, really nice tasting beer. And then for me, just Grapefruit Sculpin, just totally mashed it for me. It was a brilliant beer, I thought. Awesome
Yes,
beer. And the Stone Enjoy By, the Enjoy By, which is a very good beer. Tasty, hoppy. Yeah, pretty good. Expensive, but I think it was worth it.
So you've had Born to Die as well, and you've had Enjoy By. So did you prefer Enjoy By to Born to Die?
Do you know, I've got an absolutely terrible memory. I a useless memory. I don't write anything down. But from the tastings I had in Brewdog, it was a very good beer. And the Stone beer was a very good beer also. So to compare them would be unfair because it was like an 8-month gap between the two beers. But they were both very good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I mean, besides these two, which obviously kind of sparked off this kind of idea, and actually, I'll give him his props because I hope he's watching. One of my subscribers called Doc Hendricks, he commented on one of our previous little chats. Actually, it was the one that Nick were on as well. He commented, "Is there any chance of you doing one of these again?" I thought, "Yeah, well, let's look into it. Let's do it." So hopefully he's watching. If you're out there, good idea. Yeah. So besides these two, what I'm drinking today, one I'm going to be probably opening a bit later, called Life and Death by a brewery called Vocation. They're based in Hebden Bridge, which is a small town in Yorkshire. That's absolutely stunning. The brewery came out of nowhere, very little fanfare about it and stuff, but it's so good. And I've said to people, it's Pliny-esque. It's not a million miles away from Pliny. Though I'm sure Jack said Life and Death, but I think that's absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Probably the best production, all year round released IPA. Yeah, I think that's absolutely stunning. And then obviously earlier in the year when I were over in Denmark, that's when my obsession with Amma Bryghouse started. And
Batch 1000.
I have to stop myself going online and buying more Amma. IPA. I think that it's Batch 1000 stunning, but some others in Arizona Beast was really good. Dank Dane's
Dank
pretty
Dane.
damn good.
Dank Dane is slightly similar to some of the stuff as well, coming out of like the Treehouse Trillium type breweries, because it has that almost has that mouthfeel because of the wheat, and it's not as harsh and dank.
Yeah, I caught the back end of what you were saying, Peter, when I first kind of got on about the kind of East Coast American IPA. And as soon as we're talking about favourites, one of my favourite IPAs of the year is probably Grim Artisanal Ales with their After Image IPA, which is in the same sort of vicinity. They're like the glass of hop resinous juice, but soft and really soft on the mouthfeel. And as you pointed out, it's kind of a lot to do with yeast. Really, it's English ale yeast they mainly use, like Conan and Varieties S. Apparently, Boddington's yeast. That's what they're all using, and modifications of it. Would you believe? And also a lot high content of wheat. Like if you try Modern Times from San Diego, their wheat ale, that's high content of wheat. It's that nice like rounded mouthfeel. And as Rob said, probably like later when we talk about the future of IPAs, that's the point I'll raise. Is like, are we shifting away from bitter bombs to kind of juicy, rounded, soft IPAs? But yeah, that and other half's entire range of beers was just mad in New York. I was just like, nah, I drank everything, too much of everything, really. Bad head in the morning.
So, Rich, as you've been kind of traveling all over the shop. You've been to London recently. You've been to Milan. I think did you go home to Oregon early this year?
Yes, back in the States. Yeah. And of course, I had some amazing stuff out there. You know, Ballast Point, the Skull Pen, just crushed through all that, and Commons. And I think the style that stand out for me a lot is like rye. I don't people that are doing rye beers appropriately are really just kind of just crushing it. Kind of like you were talking about with like this mouthfeel thing. Other things that are hoppy besides just IPA styles, which is actually, which is funny is I know I said it in Milan. I kind of didn't find anything great, but there was a really good beer that I had that was actually a double IPA, and I think it's also because it was just super super fresh, and it kind of harkened back. It didn't have a lot of those like tropical fruit hops. It was a little bit more classical. Like Citra was like definitely the shining hop character, and I think it was called Wave Runner. I don't remember the name of the brewery, but the people I was with, they were all just ranting and raving about it, and I was kind of rude when I had it because it wasn't super amazing, and then I had it again in bottle, and since then, I just think it's probably my favorite beer in IPA world thus far. Unfortunately, in London, I didn't really have any IPAs. I just was, cask beer the whole time, so, yeah, I don't know.
I guess you were sneaking out a London pub. Did you find any Colonel kind of London porter? I mean, Colonel Export India Porter, I think, is not even full as London Porter while you were there. Blimey.
Colonel, fine. Camden was good. Camden Town was good. I mean, I think for all those, they were like good. So like they were fine. Like, these are great. I didn't have anything that to me had just like the Wave Runner that I had when I was in Milan. It was really a staple beer, but it was just so perfectly balanced, and I felt like the more you would drink it, it would have these other characters. It kind of kept you drinking again and again a little bit more, just to pull out like more little subtle notes, although it was really rounded the whole time. Just every sip all the way down to the bottom of the glass, you kind of be like, oh, and there's a little bit of this floral thing, or I don't know, maybe there's a bit of this, I should drink it again. Let me try it again and again and again. And then, you've had so many that you just does it taste good anyway.
Cool. Well, that's quite interesting because I haven't seen some cask IPAs. Well, that's...
Possible.
I guess that's one of the things that I think we're experiencing in the UK is I think IPA and the popularity of IPA has definitely driven kind of keg beer in the UK because back when keg started becoming a little bit more popular, it was based on breweries potentially probably like Colonel, who's I think decided that their beers and those style of beers deserve a bit more carbonation, deserve to be a little bit cooler. I remember having a Brody's they're kind of like 7% IPA on cask. I mean, it's a strong beer, so it's not getting turned over all that quickly in your average pub. And it's strong and it's quite sweet. And if it been sat in the line for a while, it was warm and like, oh. I mean, every time somebody got one of them, it will be a disappointing experience because cask, you've just got to keep turning it over. So I don't know, Jack. I don't know if you're still working Checkers. Jack works in a little bar, and which is I think cask only. And do you know an IPA that kind of performs well on cask?
The advantage of Checkers as like micro pub is that the turnover rate was fantastic. So you'd sell through. To be honest, if we just sold like a cask of IPA, and that was all there was in the bar, we'd still be making a massive profit at Checkers, which is kind of cool. So the fast turnover just means that they were always fresh. But what I will say is, yeah, you're right. After say something doesn't sell through 2 or 3 days after a big hoppy beer's gone on, all the nuances just disappear and the beer gets sweeter and sweeter and sweeter.
2 days, I think you just said 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
With an IPA, yeah. With an IPA, definitely. I mean, if it's...
You know what, and I totally realized I just lied too. Howling hops when I was in London. Mind blow. Mind blow. They were great. Well, also because it was like so fresh. But they had a really heavy hand on the hops for like everything they touched. But they had some rye stuff that was really good too. But again, I think you're right. It was super, super fresh.
That's one.
Yeah, delicious. Yeah, they were really good.
This one's very old,
That's
unfortunately.
That's new, right? They just started bottling. Oh.
Is that right? Oh, okay. Maybe it's not old, but it says it's February 16, best before, so I figured I picked it up and then looked at the date and went, uh-oh.
Oh, because I think it was something they said they'd only been in their location for like 4 months, or maybe they've only been bottling for 4 months or something. Because before they were like contract brewing somewhere else, or I don't really know the whole story, but yeah, they definitely had a lot more of those, you know, than...
Yeah. Actually, when Peter and Jakob were over in London a couple of years back, because the Howling Hops used to be based at a pub in Hackney Central called the Cock Tavern, tiny little brewery down. Sorry, I think Nature's frozen or something. Anyway, I hope I'm not interrupting. Yeah, they were based in the basement of this pub. It was tiny, tiny place.
Just getting into the mesh tun seemed like crazy difficult. Because like the space between the mesh tun and the roof was like nothing.
Yeah, it was like about a foot, and it was the ceiling at the top of the best. It was ridiculous. And the guy who was the brewer at that point, I don't know about you, Peter, but when I went there, I was so blown away, and I was of the opinion that if I had like a couple of $100 grand my head brewer, he's not the brewer anymore. He actually started a company. I think it's called Square Mile. Jack, you might be aware of it. They had a stall at Indie Man.
Really cool guys. Do great coffee.
Yeah. Ed from Square Mile. He's now making soda, so not even making beer anymore, which is sad. But no. But you mean? But when it's I haven't been. I don't know if anybody else has. It's like they call it a tank bar, and everything's direct from kind of like conditioning tanks into your glass, which is it's a good idea. I think they make some decent beer. But since Ed left, I don't think I've been quite as impressed. But yeah.
Cool.
Anybody?
Yeah.
I'm back. I'm back.
Taking a swing. Simon's back to having a piss.
Oh, yeah.
But I think Nitch is back as well.
We actually also got a question.
For a minute.
We got a question.
Oh, have we? Brilliant.
Have we had any Irish IPA? When I was in Ireland back in 2012, it was still kind of the Guinness wasteland. The only thing that was there really was Porterhouse, and I had like stouts and stuff there. So I have never had any Irish IPA.
All I have to say is Galway Bay's of Foam and Fury double IPA. Oh,
yeah,
that is so good.
Yes, I agree. I've had lots and lots of comments on Instagram. Somebody saying they call him from Boulevard or Boulevard. People saying 2 Barrels Brewery IPA. DNA from Wells and Youngs.
Moving on from me. Moving on from me.
He must have been joking.
Wait till this beer geek number one.
Is that Stuart?
Modus Hoppereni from Scarborough. That is an amazing beer in the can. Really good beer.
Yeah.
Wet Hop Mayberry by
When it's on form, when it's fresh, it's stunning. Yeah.
Brews. Who's the brewery?
Not sure.
What was?
Oh,
What?
sorry. That was. And then Chivo Perro IPA by Panama. Rheingeist. Rheingeist. And then someone said Hayes from Treehouse. I know Kevin Mayo did.
I have the can of that.
Kevin did that for me on my channel, and it sounded amazing. The Hayes from Treehouse. Fair play. Have you tried that?
That's in my fridge. No, it's in my fridge chilling right now. I'll actually be trying it tomorrow.
Apparently, it's a really good beer. Yakima Baby.
Oh.
Tiny Rebel Arbor Ales.
I just had
Go on.
Peter's beard stuck on my screen for like a minute. Sorry.
That can't be bad as well. Tiny Rebel Arbor Ales, Yakima Baby, or Madness IPA, or something called Mastermind. They're just the comments from Instagram.
Interesting.
Some good stuff.
I'm going to go with DNA.
Yeah. There's some lovely stuff in there. I mean, one that I missed out. I mean, when I did my little video before I set out this, I did like side by side with these two, and honourable mention for me, Buxton 2 ton, which was probably, when was that? Like
6 months ago.
February.
Maybe.
Yeah, a while ago.
I had that too.
That was an absolute stunner. I guess, I mean, as Jackson now, and Peter mentioned it, the big beer release in the UK every year at the moment still is Magic Rock's Unhuman Cannibal Triple IPA. I think it's like 11.2 or something like that. I really didn't like this year. I really didn't like it. I know Peter loved it. I don't know about Jack's opinion, but
I quite liked it.
I hated it. it was quite petrol-y and hard going, really. And in comparison to the Cloudwater Triple IPA I'm drinking, which is stunning, and from a lot of the things that Peter said about the Trillium and Treehouse, I think this has got a lot of that going on. But I found Unhuman Cannibal just harsh, and maybe it's just not my taste profile, because that's dank as fuck, and it's I like
it.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's just me, but
I got a question for Jack. If I can ask Jack a question as a brewer.
No,
I've been drinking a lot of American IPAs recently, and a lot of them have been overly sweet. Have you come across that same thing? And do you think they're actually adding sugar? Because in some of my reviews, I've said, look, there must be some kind of sugar added to this beer because it's just super sweet, super sweet.
Well, what a lot of people don't really realise about American IPAs is they are very sweet. Underneath all the hops to support the flavours, they have to have quite a large amount of kind of caramel malts and crystal malts to supplement the flavour, particularly on the West Coast. Think things like Lagunitas and stuff, and Sierra Nevadas. They're all really quite high on the caramel malt front. So what happens when all those hops disappear, when they kind of come across and they're about 6-8 months old? They become sweeter and sweeter by the minute and become almost like small level barley wines.
Yeah.
Also, they probably do add sugar, but actually sugar will ferment out and it'll just turn into kind of fresh alcohol without leaving any flavour.
Yeah.
But you'll find it with a lot of beers. If you pick up an Old English IPA, it'll be really sweet, or an Old English pale ale, or kind of a traditional ale, they'll definitely be sweet. It's just usually aged, to be honest, but they are very sweet underneath it.
It's just something I've picked up over the last 18 months or 2 years. And I picked it up I had a bottle of Ruination versus Ruination 2, and for me there's something underlying. Whether that's just me being me, but I much preferred the first Ruination. I thought it was a much better beer. The second one, again, it was that over sweet, what the hell's going on?
Now I haven't had the second version, but the age thing has so much to do with it. I mean, IPAs often, especially as Jack said, from the West Coast, a lot of them have a lot of crystal malt compared to the Vermont stuff, which is now more focused on wheat malt and lighter malts. The West Coast stuff often has tons of caramel, and when you just approach a few months of age, you start to taste that more, and that's the sweetness you're getting. That's like when you get a barley wine. The reason why barley wine is super sweet is there's so much caramel malt in the barley wine. So that's why I think things are shifting a little bit as well, because people are getting fed up with like the overly sweet malt forward IPAs.
Yes.
Because you've got to keep the styles like reinventing themselves and changing.
No, but the first, going back to it, the first Ruination was older than the second. The second Ruination, apparently in Bruno, was fresh. They were saying it's a fresh beer. The older bottle that I had was still a hoppier, drier beer than the sweeter Ruination 2.
That might be because like they're trying to cater to the new kind of IPA going on, because the new IPAs are not sweeter on the malt flavors, but sweeter on the hop flavors. It's like sweet hop juice, whereas the old school kind of American style West Coast IPAs are like bitter bombs, are like smack you in the face with bitterness up front. But that's the trend that's kind of going out of style now. It's still, people are still making it, of course, and it's still a nice type of IPA, but what's going in style now is like less intense bitterness and more hop.
Yeah. More of a flavour rather than a sensation.
Yeah.
I think we'd love.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, one thing I just got to chip in. Nature's had to drop out. I think her internet's just not having it. I think she's still on dial-up. I mean, it's Paris. I don't know. But I've told her to still keep sending us questions and comments and so on. So same goes for anybody who's watching. Everybody, thank you very much for tuning in this evening. Sorry, Niches had to leave us. You're left with, I mean, clearly Simon is now the eye candy. But
too right.
But Adam might join us later as well. But yeah, so hopefully. But everybody who's watching, please send us your questions and comments. Whoever you follow on here, but if you want to contact me at HopZine, HopZine, send me your questions on Twitter, and I'll ask the crew. Anyway, sorry for interrupting. Get on with it.
Guys, another question. Sorry to hog the feed tonight, but what's with these USB sticks that breweries give you?
I've never seen it.
That looks
never
awesome.
Anything like that.
Look at this.
Nice. That's a pretty cool USB stick.
No, but I've had a look at that. I pulled the horse's head off, and it's a USB stick.
Cracking. Hey, I've got to find out what they make them. I've got an idea for some merch now.
I've had a few this year. They seem to be trending in Belgium. I think they've moved on to streaming, and I think USB sticks have finally hit Belgium and Italy.
Yeah, so Peter's just dropped out. I'm sure he'll be back in a minute. So obviously, if you're Master of Hobbit fans, he will be back. I'm sure he's just having some technical details. As Google Plus isn't the most perfect piece of software, but what the hey? So Jack, you were going to ask us a very pointed question about the direction of IPA. Before you get onto that, one thing I want to say, which hopefully leads into this. And I wish Adam was on for this because he's had a very different experience to me with the Magic Rock cans. Mine have not been great. I've been the brewery have told me how they what the issues are, and I mean they're fully aware of it, and they're isolated, and I think I'm just the unfortunate one, sadly, that I picked up like 8 cans of something the like bad part of the run. Firstly, how's your can? But the bigger comment that I want to make, I always said Magic Rock's Cannonball was probably the best kind of all year round British IPA, but I personally think is it tastes are changing? Is it the styles changing? Because that's I was talking to Richard, the owner of the brewery, about this. That's quite an old school hopping kind of regime, and quite old school hopping kind of like. Well, the hops that they use, I think it's Chinook, Centennial, Simcoe, Amarillo, and something else. So it's old school West Coast IPA. Is it that kind of tastes have kind of moved on from there, or I don't know. Has that been? Is it not what it used to be? I don't know. I don't want to slag it off or anything, because I think it's a stunning beer when it's on form. But are our tastes changing to that degree? That, I mean, the two beers that I'm drinking now, the Cloudwater Double IPA and the Brewdog Born to Die, are so different to that.
I think it might be maybe human complacency. Maybe it plays a part here. Maybe the people who have got stuff to work for, like to get a fan base of people like Cloudwater, and they really want that fan base, and they're pushing out the best beers in the world rather than like, I'll give you an example. The canning process. Brains have been around for 120 years. It's just complacent. It's just a complacent company. I took cans of 6 Point Bengali Tiger and different cans to the brewery, and I said I know for a fact that cans are the future of IPAs and different styles of craft beers. Put it in a can. We could have been 3.5 years down the curve, and I think now the brewery realizes that everybody's canning craft beer, and it's a really good idea. But at the time, they were just like, nah. Why do we need to do that? And I think it's just human error that creeps into it. It's just complacency that creeps into it. I'm not saying for 1 minute that Magic Rock are being complacent, but when they've got a great beer in the high wire, why would you change it in any way whatsoever? Why would they change such a great beer?
Well, if I can take up that point, I suppose, obviously producing an IPA, our kind of house IPA, it's quite sweet, it's quite rounded, it's quite traditional. It's just Chinook, Centennial, and there's a little bit of Citra in dry hopping. Used to have some Mosaic in, but a whole nother story being hops and hop contracts. I can't get any hops, can't get any Mosaic, can't get any more Citra for next year. Joy. Anyway, it's got kind of a fan base in our local area, so to some extent we have a customer base with that beer, and we're kind of reluctant to change it massively. There's nothing wrong with it, I don't think. But it's not the hoppiest thing in the world. So perhaps on Magic Rock's Cannonball side, like, this is kind of the beer. Seriously, it's like the beer that got me into huge hoppy beers, I suppose. That and probably Punk IPA and a few of the other kind of forerunners of the style. And I still like it because of that. And now maybe it's not as hoppy as it used to be. You've seen Stone, they've gone out and they've modernised their beer range. It's a relative success or failure, as we've just said. But they're trying to push their style. They know they're there for the big, massively resinous hoppy beers, and they want to kind of keep up the cutting edge of it. This can I've got a Cannonball right now is nowhere near as good as the can I had a couple of nights ago. I know exactly why. I can taste why. I'm sure the brewery knows why, and I know people have had beers probably the same as this. Won't go into that. I still like them as a company, and the other beers I'm sure will be all right.
Yeah. I know. I don't know if it was watching, but I know they are very frustrated at this. You mean that you wouldn't choose this to be? It's part of the kind of the learning process. And when you've got first time you've ever done cans, you want to get your kind of like flagship beer out there into people's hands, and if it don't go all right, you're gonna be like, fuck. If it's not perfect, you're gonna be like, bastard.
Yeah, and knowing those guys, they'll be really kicking themselves because they are perfectionists in that respect.
But going back to Rob's point, Cloudwater can do it. They can get these hops in. What's going on? Why can't Magic Rock do it anymore?
Well, I guess I don't know if they can't do it. I guess my point was like, is that beer a little bit kind of like behind the times? Are things moving on? Some of the stuff I've had from Amabragos, the stuff that Peter's been having from kind of Trillium and Treehouse and so on, that is clearly where the kind of like the style's progressing. But you could probably go back to beers like Swami from
Port
and Stone IPA, like the original Stone IPA. Sculpin, straight up Sculpin. They are of a specific style within a style. I drink probably more IPA than any other style of beer. and I love the fact that there is such a breadth within one particular style, and you can go, oh, well, today I'll fancy that style of IPA, and tomorrow I might fancy that one. So I love the kind of breadth of style, but they're kind of classic in a way, and as Stone, obviously, with Revelation 2.0, have kind of taken on board that the style is progressing in a certain direction, and they're jumping on that. Clearly, Brewdog have done with Born to Die. I mean, that's moving around in that kind of area as well. But I don't know if I think Cannonball came at a certain time, and they're doing a lot of playing around with it. Obviously, they're in a new brewery. They're trying to work out certain kinks within their kind of production and all sorts of things. And it is a massive challenge to make a big hoppy IPA all year round. Goodness me, I don't know how much that costs. And obviously, beers like the Cloudwater one, which I'm absolutely blown away by, is a very, very expensive beer to make, and they would not make that like every couple of weeks because it costs them a bloody fortune. Well, so that is a challenge. But is it stylistically? I don't know if things have kind of moved on beyond it, I guess.
But that's probably the point. That's probably the point. Is that it's an investment process at the moment. They're trying to get people on board, so they're producing these amazing beers. I've not tried the double IPA. I'm pretty sure it's amazing. It looks good. It looks good. But is it you get your people on board, you get your likes on Facebook, you get your following on Twitter, and then you maybe settle down into something a little bit different? Like, as Jack said, it's difficult to get a certain hop every year, throughout the year. Is it adjustment, but still call it the same beer? Like Punk IPAs, it was a very different beer just a few years ago than it is today. But it's still called Punk IPA. Why not? My argument has always been, why not still have original Punk IPA, and then whatever they decide to do new, call it a different beer, because it's a different beer.
Yeah. I'll let Jack talk, but I mean, I've definitely got an opinion on Punk, and I've actually asked that. I made that comment to James and Martin when I was up at the brewery, saying, what I mean, I think people have got this idea of Punk, what old Punk was in their head. Is it actually that different? What actually is that beer? Is there any kind of like comparison to other beers that you've made and stuff like that? But anyway, Jack, all yours.
Oh, 1 second, just writing a note. There you go. Passing letters across. Yeah. So just walking up now, yeah, running away. Right. So yeah, my ideas on the kind of movement forward of the style. It's kind of because we're a world, because there's different tastes all over the world. It's kind of hard to say where we're heading. But I always think that UK kind of follows America in terms of what we're looking for. So we've kind of hit the American big, heavy, massively hoppy thing for a little while now, and things like this Cloudwater Double IPA, which I've got some coming, but I haven't tried, are kind of really pushing that boundary of this massive, resinous, hugely dank and piney IPAs that are just really, really impressing palates at the moment. Yeah, they are massively expensive to make, though. It's about £35 a kilo for hops like Mosaic and Citra. That's a lot compared to £8 or £9 a kilo for things like Fuggles and Coldings, which we all know are fantastic hops. Obviously, their price reflects their brilliance. So it's massively expensive for us to make beers like that, and they're great as a one-off stopping point. We just did a triple rye wine that's cost us £5,000 to make, and we've not made a penny back off it yet. It's just ridiculous, right? But that's how much it costs you to make them sometimes, because it had 3-month maturation period, because it's so hoppy as well. So I think what's happening in the US is, because there's so many cool hops around, and because they are like worth the weight, probably more in grams than gold, I would imagine. We're thinking about interesting and useful ways of kind of using them now, like more effectively. So using things like yeast strains to kind of amplify the flavors. Also double dry hopping, but for like everything post boil. So don't bother wasting those essential oils with a really expensive hop. Just use it in dry hopping. Use it double dry hopping. Use it post boil, like hop backing or something like that, and using them more effectively. Making sure people minimize things like CO2, like oxygen contacts as well, is huge in these East Coast breweries. because oxygen just absolutely destroys hop flavors. So I think these guys are starting to concentrate on some things like that, and transferring with CO2 as well. So not a mechanical pump, but pushing through with pressure and gas doesn't destroy these little compounds and stuff as well. So I think we're going to follow suit in that as well. These bigger, juicier beers, you get more people drinking more of them as well, because they're not so massively crushing. You use your hops more effectively, using an alternative yeast. You're educating people about the power of yeast as well, and that a cloudy beer isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I like that. I really like the flavours coming out. In a nutshell.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
We've got loads of. I've been very lax. We've got loads of comments on Facebook, on Twitter, and loads on the YouTube page as well. So I'm going to start a few on them. I'm going to go to Twitter first off, because it's amazing. We're getting so many comments. Simon, this one involves you. We've got Craig Kemp Beer Reviews, our good friend doing that at GBBF. He says, "How did me and you rate Litter's Mouth, which we by Figueroa Mountain, as far as like beers of the year goes? Remember having that one at GBBF?"
That was just, it's a case of so many beers, so little time in there. That was an amazing beer. If you think about it, we got the head brewer brains over it, and we tried it with a vinegar beer and the balsamic beer, but the Lizard's Mouth beer was fantastic. It was a really, really good beer, and it's just one of them ones that just, I suppose I should have mentioned, but it just slid by. An idea that I'm not that. You're always making errors, Sam. Yeah.
But, no, I think that was really nice. Probably kind of more old school West Coast IPA, but lovely stuff. We've got a guy called Ben. That's Ben's Beer Org. He asks, with sours popping up all over the place this year, what do you think the next trend will be? And also, what's your favourite black IPA? Simon, do you want to go on, Jack? Go on.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, I think sours are probably, because like the Gozas and the Berliner Weisses are kind of in vogue at the moment. I think they're just about tailing off a little bit, if I'm honest. And I'm starting to taste some. Well, I'm starting to taste some really kind of naff ones as well. Without like, I'm trying not to be facetious, but kind of like, yeah, it's totally fine. But I've had this a million times now. So now we're getting more complex ones coming out, because people have actually had like 3 years to actually sour something. So like when we get Burning Skies Proper Efforts out, and Wild Beer have just released their kind of first proper efforts, the Cool Ship Ale Goods, who deserve a good shout out for being a massively traditional brewery, but really pushing the bar with a proper cool ship. Well done, guys. Wow. That's really cool, right?
There are three different versions of it.
Different fruity ones. Yeah, I've really enjoyed them actually. I must say, we're pretty good too.
I didn't get to try it, sadly.
Oh, I'm sure there's still some popping around. What was I talking about? Yeah. Oh yeah, trends to come. So trends to come are probably the more complex sour beers, and I'd like to see some people really experimenting with. I'd like to see some of these kind of new East Coast IPAs, but I'd like to see some more kind of interesting Brett uses in saisons, and also Brett IPAs as well, using what's now Saccharomyces terroir rather than Brettanomyces terroir, but the same sort of thing, a slightly funky yeast strain. And as far as black IPAs, it's a real. I'm going to pull a real craft beer geek one, but it's got to be the Hill Farmstead one. That was just absolutely schooling. I'm sorry, but it totally was. Other black IPAs, I like the big one, like the black IPAs. They're just IPAs that have got like dark malt through, and it's literally kind of dyed and black. But if I get one that's kind of got the roasty malt flavors in, I like the ones that are really dry and acrid, and then loads of piney, dank, resiny notes that kind of zing off that dark malt flavor. But there's some that kind of straddle the gap between. But I think you really need to define yourself as like an IPA, dyed black, or is it a really roasty dark beer with loads of darker, piney, resiny, sort of hop flavors for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. I mean, I'm a big black IPA fan. As far as my favourites, classically, I mean, sadly, it's no longer with us, but Stone Sublime Self-Righteous, which never called it itself a black IPA.
Is it gone?
Yeah, they stopped making it, but they're now doing a black version of Enjoy By, which I would love to try. I'm sure we will do. The first one's just been released, so I'd love to try that. I mean, it's one I don't get as many as I used to. I don't know if there's as many around. Black Betty by Beavertown is one I'll go back to because it's readily available, but not one of my favourites. I had one from Tempest recently, which was good. But I mean, I completely agree, Jack. I mean, sometimes it's hoppy beer that happens to be black, and then sometimes I do like ones which have got a good amount of malt character in there, a bit of roast. So I'm an equal opportunities kind of black IPA drinker. But Simon, new trend.
I'm drinking a good Rundia Black IPA at the moment, a really good beer. 67 IBU, 7.4% ABV. It's just a lovely. Where is it? I think I've drunk it. I've already drunk it. A lovely black IPA. Trends to come. Now, this is my own personal trends to come. Now, we all know that the bigger regional breweries in the UK have monopoly over the certain amount of pubs. I went to Salisbury recently, there's a lot of Badger pubs. Wales, there's a lot of Brains pubs. I don't think for these regional breweries that's enough anymore. I think, for me, the trends to come is that craft beer is growing so big now that they're going to have to start producing proper craft beer. And I think that might be, for me, that would be a trend that I would like to see. Instead of producing your Thirsty Ferrets and your Reverend Jameses or your London Prides, get in there and produce some really good beer. That would be my own personal trend that I would like to see in maybe 2016, 2017.
I think to some extent that's already kind of happening. You've seen some of the releases, like we all kind of scoffed at DNA, but DNA being one of the ones that Marston's tried to do, and 13 Guns and Big Ben, etc., from Crafty down or Thwaites. So I think some of them are kind of moving into that market, but it's also a personal sticking point, and I won't go too much into it, but Guinness has bought, or Diageo, who own Guinness, have bought all the Galaxy hops pretty much exclusively, all of them. So I'd like to thank Diageo right now. I would like to thank them from the bottom of my heart for stopping me from getting literally my favourite hop to use, because...
Yeah, dreadful.
Thanks.
And what are they going to do with it? Stick it in Guinness?
Guinness IPA. The Nitro Guinness IPA, I imagine.
No.
So, yeah.
Why would you even try to do something like that?
Can you imagine anything worse than a creamy IPA? Just like, ooh, interesting. Anyway, that's, yeah.
But if he's any good, I bet he'll try it.
I'm going to have to give it a try. Got to give it a try.
Just, while we're on the subject of Black IPA, we on his lunch break over in San Diego, we've had a comment from the man himself, Mr. San Diego Beer Vlog, Ryan Rashan. He says, Black IPA is the worst. I remember drinking with Ryan, and he really doesn't like it. And he just said, Jack, start getting some Belmer hops.
Belmer. I've got some Ella, Topaz. Oh, what else is it? I can't remember, but yeah, Belmer was that. I'll give it a shot. If I can get some.
I think Ryan used Belmer in his the beer that he won the Stone competition with, if I remember correctly.
Cool.
If not, it was something that he brought and shared with us. I've got some memory of that. Anyway, one thing I just want to mention, guys from Cloudwater have been watching. That's really cool. They've sent us some comments as well. And she said, "Evening, folks. Great to catch you having such an in-depth chat." Well, what can I say? We're very kind of intelligent group of erudite fellas. And then they say, Simon. So, hey Simon, we're seasonal, so we don't box ourselves in. So, I mean, that's the reason that they don't kind of like produce the same thing,
right?
Kind of month after month. They respond kind of seasonally. So it's either what they might be inspired by, something they drink, something they eat, something they experience, and also to do with big times to do with ingredients as well, or maybe what's the type of beer that is suitable for this time of year. I mean, I picked up a few actually. I got the Motor Echo Lager, and I've got I got their porter as well. So I mean, got a hoppy lager and a porter as we're in their autumn range. So, but yeah, the double IPA which I'm drinking and absolutely loving. That's like essentially a bit of a celebration. I think they've been in production for 9 months, and it marks the year. I mean, a year after them getting the keys to their premises. But I think this is absolutely stonking beer. But yeah, big thanks to the guys at Hardwell for tuning in, and this beer is absolutely incredible.
I want to try it.
But yeah, anyway, more questions. As I said, we've got absolutely loads of questions. Next one up. Let me go to where I was. So we've got Owl Farm Brewing Co. And it says, what's your favourite hop combination in an IPA?
Ooh. That's one for...
About educated mind.
Oh yeah, I'm very sophisticated, mate. All right. So I think actually we were just talking about kind of the classic hop combination of the 4Cs, the Cascade, Centennial, Chinook. Forgot the last one. Centennial, Chinook, Cascade. Citra, I guess. There you go.
That's my pump clip for my homebrew that was on at the Saltaire Brewery a couple of years back, and that one. I mean, that was Chinook, Centennial, and Citra.
Yeah, well, it's a very classic combination. Oh, Peter's back. Hey.
My computer cooled.
So yeah, I guess the kind of the 3 or 4Cs combo is a classic one. We've just done like a Chinook single hop beer, and this year's harvest of Chinook is amazing. It's so pure grapefruity. There's even some berry characteristics coming through, kind of more reminiscent of Mosaic. So I was really impressed with this year's Chinook. But my personal favourite combination has got to be some combo of New Zealand hops. I just love New Zealand hops at the moment. There's just something, this little, they kind of have this similar qualities to Australian hops, having this slightly, cheesy is the wrong word, but this kind of savoury note to them. And then also this massive tropical fruit lamb coming through. So if you get something like Nelson Sauvin, or Waimea or White Eye, something like that, mixing that in with something like Mosaic or Citra, you've got to be heading down like a combination that's just going to be stellar. Mix it in with some English ale yeast and get one of these treehouse-like beers, and away you go.
I like Mosaic is one of my new favorite hops too. It's such an awesome hop. Seriously, some of the beers I've had lately with Mosaic are so damn good. And a hop I'm excited to see utilized now, like treehouse-wise, is Galaxy. Because the can I have of the one called Green is mostly Galaxy hops as far as I know. And I've had a few beers with Galaxy hops, but I've never had a beer with Galaxy hops that's been like super fresh and like in your face. And this one's like 17, 18 days old, this can, so
awesome.
Should be a winner.
Actually, one thing I will say is about underrated hops. I think probably the most underrated hop in the world right now is probably Summit, which is one of my favourites, ironically. It's like the most onioning, garlicky, stinky hop in the world. Most people use it for bittering. But if you co-condition with it, like I like to do, it's just like blood orange juice. So if you want to try and find something different, and it's not so expensive kind of cost-wise, Summit is an amazing hop that I really like to use. So that's good for homebrewers out there. Try chucking some Summit in. If you've got co-conditioning ability, like when you're putting it in the fermentation fridge and you chill it down to cold crash, chuck some hops in for dry hopping, and let me know what you think, because I really like Summit.
Mentioning Summit, I mean, ages ago, back when Stuart Ross, the head brewer at Magic Rock, when he was still just brewing in the basement at a pub in Sheffield, I guess the beer that brought him to a lot of people's attention probably brought him to Richard from Magic Rock, who ended up starting a brewery with him, was a beer called Brooklyn Heights, and I think that was a big kind of like Summit beer, because it's not a sexy hop, is it? It's not Simcoe, it's not Mosaic, it's not like Equinox, something like that. They're not ones what are massively in demand, and I think there's a real art and a key to those smaller and maybe newer breweries who can't get in there and get all those kind of the hops from kind of is it Hop Union up in the Yakima Valley. You've got to be on the cards for a number of years before you can even get your hands on it.
Yep.
It's a real challenge. So I'm all for kind of utilising something that isn't quite as trendy.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be trendy to hop for being good. Before I popped on, I saw some comments on.
I've got loads, yeah. There's loads, yeah.
Right.
Go for it, Peter.
I saw Ryan saying that Alpine started the tradition of these, treehouse, what people call treehouse IPAs nowadays, years ago, and that is kind of true, or it is true, because I actually went to the facility myself, and it was these types of beers. Maybe not as like chewy and creamy and whatnot, but it was the same vein. But now, Alpine is getting so much hate after Green Flash starting doing their beers. The difference is so huge, apparently. I've seen reviews on it. I haven't, of course, not had it myself. I've only tried the Alpine Brew stuff. The Alpine Brew stuff was amazing. And I recently saw a review of Hoppy Birthday, which they now call a Session IPA, which was an APA, American Pale Ale back in the day. Now, when I had that APA on tap in San Diego, it blew my mind. Best Pale Ale I've ever had. Then people drink it now as a Session IPA, and they're like, it's like everything else. It's like, what? So I kind of think Green Flash, I don't know what they did, but I don't think they might be following the same recipe, but they're not doing it the exact same way at Treehouse. Oh yeah, sorry, that Alpine is doing it.
Yeah,
so,
totally agreed.
So sad.
Totally agreed. When I was out there in over last New Year, had Nelson at the Alpine facility, and it was absolutely spectacular. Then had it also at Green Flash because it was on draft at Green Flash, and was like, that's not the same beer I had literally like 2 hours ago before coming down here. It was massive difference, and I thought it was probably the first drink out of the lines or something like that. But yeah, it's different, very.
Guys, I'm gonna have to make a move, but thank you for having me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm just actually trying to make this go a little bit longer because we've only got like 15 minutes left, and I've got loads of comments, so I really want to get to everything.
Hopefully, my computer will crash again. It overheats so easily. It's overheated like 4 times today just from rendering a video.
Just keep it near an open window.
Then I have to sit like next to the window over there.
It don't look like I can. I don't look like I can extend the. I mean, you can have too much of a good thing. So anyway, let's crack on. I've got, as I said, loads of comments, both on YouTube and on Twitter. Let me get back to my comments. I'm very professional.
1 second.
Right. It's all right. Peter's off for a piss now. So let me get back to it. Oh yeah, Carol Bottle War starts here? Question mark. I think cans are storming ahead as anyway. We've had that comment before. Anyway, we've got Hop Sniffer, which is my mate Stuart. Say not Stuart Pickard, but evening. I think Magic Rock Cross Pollination was ace. Difference Cannonball maybe. They can can that. I mean, I think Magic Rock are going to be canning Villainous. That's very much on their near horizons. But I mean, anybody else had Cross Pollination? Jack, did you have it? That was the Heather Honey IPA collaboration with Arizona Wilderness.
Yeah, I had it. It definitely had that nice heather honey flavour to it. Very, very distinct. Nice little hoppy finish. It was a really good beer. Yeah, really good. Enjoyed it a lot.
Also, Mitch did comment about 20 minutes ago saying, I say that Simon is the sexy face of craft beer for this chat. So, fair enough.
Too right. You made a Welshman very happy.
I say Jack. It's gotta be Jack.
Jeez.
Andy Nolan saying enjoying the chat. Thank you very much. The bearded one, who I've chatted many times with. Fancy sharing that bottle of Pliny behind you. Yeah, but it's empty. It's covered in dust. I'll share that Dark Lord and the Kevin Topper as well, probably. They're all empty. No, they're all empty. He's just teasing you.
Speaking of which, over your left-hand shoulder, can I see one of Simon's beers?
Absolutely. Over this side is the over this side is the kind of the it's the kind of like roll of honour. We've got a couple of Simon's beers, and we've got my beer, and Yellow Belly oddly, just because I love the label. But yeah, I didn't actually. I don't know who got the other one. The Call Me Simon #2.
I've not tried it. I've not tried it yet.
I've had it, and it's
You haven't
really
tried
good.
your own beer yet.
It
That's
was
terrible.
like a Marmite beer. People in Poland were saying people either loved it or hated it.
No, it was really good actually. It surprised me how good it was. No, it's just because I mean it's not that well rated on Rate Beer and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but I mean it's kind of like it's like a hoppy version of like Fuller's 18. What is it? 1868. Whatever it's called.
Is it 1845 something like
Yeah,
that?
that's the one. Yeah, that one. It's a bit like that. So, more comments. There we go. Yeah, so Ryan again. Summer are nice. Rip Curran has used it well in their hoppy wheat ale. So summer. I've not heard of that up myself. Got
Just an
Thomas
Australian
McCarthy.
one.
We've got Thomas McCarthy who's been commenting quite a lot. I'm sorry we haven't got to your comments. I'll go back through them and stuff. But he said O'Hara in Carlo Island have make great beer using Galaxy hops. I've only had stouts from them.
Yeah, O'Hara.
Yeah,
Yeah, like an Irish and a red ale. I think I've had too.
I had the barrel aged version of the Imperial Stout with Stuart and Adam. I don't know if any of us have posted yet. It just fucking spewed everywhere.
Oh no!
It was a flip top bottle and stuff, and it was a nightmare. And he also says we all hate Diageo in Ireland, and too bloody right. Anyway, Nick says keep hearing about this Guinness IPA. They're trying to get their nitro taps back again. Maybe they are. Yeah. Is that the next kind of war of the nitro taps?
Yeah, because then you've got to force pubs to have nitro and CO2 mixes in and stuff, and it just starts getting hairy. I mean, it's illegal, I think, in the US, and I'm pretty sure it's not badly in the UK to buy and install taps or pay people to put your beer on the bar, but Guinness were well known for doing that back in the day, and it might happen again.
Can you remember
Simon?
them? Sorry, Rob.
Simon, we've had a comment from Doc Hendricks, the man who inspired me to kind of do another of these chats. He said, Simon's t-shirt, I'm drinking a Turbo Geezer right now.
Oh, really? Blimey, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, can you remember that? Remember that phase about 10 years ago, or maybe even 15 years ago, the ice cold bitter? You remember that? The nitro.
Extra cold.
Oh yeah, like
Oh,
Smith's something. Smith's like with the horseshoe or what is it?
John Smith.
John Smith.
I had that
Nitro.
the first time I was in London. I was like back then I was like, wow, this is pretty nice. But back then I didn't know shit about beer.
Yeah. The ice cold beers. Remember them days, Rob?
Oh yes, absolutely. Wait until the mountains turn blue.
Yes.
Oh,
that was
cool.
it. Yeah, that was it.
The ice cold beer, of
The
course.
Newcastle Brown Ale, the star had to turn blue before you could drink it. Remember them days? Dreadful.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're all over it. Simon, we've got a guy, I presume he's from Poland. I'm not going to try and pronounce his name. But he says, best IPA will be Dr. Brew Annabelle, isn't it, Simon?
Hopefully. They've messaged me. They wanted me to go back over. I work in retail, so with Christmas coming, I had to say no to go and release the beer. I couldn't go back over for they call them premieres in Poland, to go and premiere the beer. I couldn't go and do it. But
Denmark.
eh?
We call it the same in Denmark.
Yeah, it's like a European thing, isn't it? To premiere a beer. But I couldn't go with work. But apparently they've tried it out of the fermenter and they really like it. So hopefully it's a pretty decent beer.
So, just going through a couple of comments from the start. Sorry, I didn't get them at the start. I'm just finding them now. Craig over at Kent Bay Reviews, he said his favourite IPA of the year was Littlesmouth, as we spoke about earlier, and then he said his second favourite was Barley Forge, the Orange Curtain. I've not heard of that one.
They're from California, I believe. I think.
Oh yes,
they've got playing cards. They've got playing cards on the front of their labels. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and we had Thomas McCarthy, who's been commenting quite a lot. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. He says, I think Big River IPA by 8 Degrees is good. I've had some lovely stuff from 8 Degrees in Ireland. What was the full Irish? I think it was double Irish. The full Irish is maybe even better. I had their IPL, and that was very good as well. Actually, that's a question to ask people in a minute. Let me just have a quick scan down here. Blah blah blah. Yada yada yada. I've gone through all this. And I guess black IPA is a good kind of like starting point from that, because we were talking about that earlier. I've had a couple of nice IPLs recently. Evolution of style, and as Peter was talking about, the 420 from Omnipollo, which is essentially a wheat beer, but with that kind of like mouthfeel and loads of late hop character and stuff like that. I mean, I had a couple of cans of Fathom from Ballast Point the other week. Absolutely stunning. I like the kind of evolution of.
It was like the first Indian lager I ever had, I think, on tap at the brewery back in 2012. But you were talking black IPA. That's a style I've come to.
Just variety of kind of like styles. Because obviously IPA is the kind of starting point for all this, yeah. and the popularity of that style. Because I mean, they always say, especially in America, IPA is the everybody's got an IPA, and that's the most popular style within craft beer. Yeah. So it will often kind of inform various little kind of veins that fly out from that, whether it's wheat beers or black IPAs or hoppy stouts or goodness knows. I mean,
just like black IPA is a style. When it came out, I was so into it, but now I kind of hate it. Like I think most black IPAs are just hopped up stouts, a mishmash of weird flavors, and like it's so rare you have one that's just like bam, awesome. Like on the top of my head, I can only think now of 2 black IPAs that I think are dead on amazing, and that's like the Escandidian Imperial Black Ale by Stone, the anniversary ale they did, and the one totally did called Black Malt and Body Salt.
Oh yeah.
Made with coffee. Those are awesome. Coffee. But I often just really.
That was mentioned by somebody on Twitter as well. That was mentioned on Black
awesome.
I love that.
Amazing. It's one of the best black IPAs. But like I've had so many black IPAs. Well, not lately, but a few months back from different countries in Europe, and all in one seem to just be like these super bitter stouts that are a little bit hopped up. And it's just, give me a stout on its own and an IPA on its own. That's kind of how I'm at now. Unless it's something like Black Malts and Body Salts or the Escandidian Imperial Black Ale by Stone.
Yeah, I mean, this new Enjoy by Stone. I can't wait for that to. Hopefully, Bruno are going to bring it over anyway. Another question. We've got Jake, who you probably know from these beer tubes and all that business. He says, "Have you guys had Sriracha Ace IPA by Alpha State?" I mean, I know Alpha State. I've had a couple of beers by him. I know Jonathan. I know they get quite a lot of Alpha State over in Copenhagen because he's a friend of Mickle's.
But we don't get any up here.
You've had, I presume. I know he's had some beers on at CBC, haven't he?
Yeah, and he's been at CBC like I think almost every year. Speaking of, are you guys going?
I'm not.
I am. Yeah. Nice.
See you there.
That's what happens when you're very small, baby. You don't go to Denmark.
Of course, that's right. But Alpha State isn't something we see like I think outside of Copenhagen really. So.
I've never seen an Alpha State in England, full stop, ironically. I know it's down in Kent, I know it's all the way down there, but I've never seen any come up north here. So the first time I heard of them was CBC. So unfortunately, I had a few good beers by him, but I didn't get to try them much. I had like 2 barrel-aged versions of the Larson's Brewing, and that was it, really.
Yeah, it's not an easy to find brewery. I mean, yeah, I think he keeps it quite local and sends quite a bit to Copenhagen. We've had bits and bats of it up past. I've known Jonathan for a while. He's a bit of a wild man, but and he does look like kind of like a Russell Brand nightmare. He's a licensor to himself as well. He's a great guy, but you don't want to be keeping up for him drink. I'll tell you that.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, he's a good guy though. But yeah, I mean, he just fits in. Well, actually, I remember walking in to GBBF with him one year, and they were like, "How you doing, mate?" And they were like, "Oh, fucked. Been drinking a lot of gin."
Gin!
That sounds like Arizona Wilderness. When they came to Copenhagen, they partied like crazy during CBC, like before during CBC. And I talked to Andreas, one of the new people at and he was just dead from partying with it. There's like a photo of him lying sleeping backstage at CBC because he partied too hard with the Arizona Wilderness guys.
So, just a couple more comments, because we've only got 4 minutes left. Actually, who's got the volume up really now? Because it's got a real kind of relay.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I have earplugs. So.
Yeah, earbuds as well.
Yeah, me too. Simon, if you turn your volume down.
What's going on? Is it my...
Here you go. It's just kind of relaying. Anyway, so we've got Mulligan says, hi, what are your thoughts on Hoppy Saisons? Any favourites? I think Mosaic Saison by Anchorage is one of my favourites this year. I've had some stuff from Anchorage on the Wall of Fame. I've got a bottle of, I do like Anchorage, but I'm not a massive fan of Saison. But as far as Hoppy Saisons go, I like Tank 7 by Boulevard.
Calabasa Boreal by Jolly Pumpkin and
Anchorage.
Anchorage, that's really damn good.
Yeah, it's gorgeous stuff.
It's not a saison, but it's hopped up sour or whatever you want to call it. But there's a new brewery in Denmark, very tiny, super small. They're called Ale Farm Brewing Company, and I reviewed like one of their first beers, and the beer was called. Funk Orchard was a sour hop with tons of citra. That blew my mind. It was one of their first beers, and I gave it a 95. Wow. One of their first freaking beers. I can't wait to see more from them. It's one dude, and he used to work, I think he still does, but worked at the Miller bars. And then he started his own brewing venture. He even got to do a collaboration beer with 18th Street over in the US, which is so cool. So yeah, anyone watching, it's going to be hard to get, but keep an eye out for Ale Farm in Denmark. They are so far pretty damn awesome. Yeah, I think they only have like 3 beers so far.
So next question, it's a two-parter actually, because it's the guy who just asked the last question, Mulligan, and then Nick's reply as well. She's staying and watched us all. Thanks for that. Sorry about your terrible internet connection. And he says, Mango Feber by Brewing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My friend Andreas is Swedish, and he's been trying to bring that beer, and he says it's amazing. And he also says Disco Soleil by WCL, which I think is absolutely stunning. And also Bridge IPA by Oppigard, some of the best IPAs of this year. And then Nick replied saying, Disco Soleil, really? Actually, I love Disco Soleil. That was a kumquat IPA. I really enjoyed that. That is extremely popular over here. Never had the other.
You had the Oppigard Bridge IPA, didn't you, Rob? Just in the Ama version, building bridges.
Yeah, I love that. Stunning. I've actually had a couple of Oppigard beers recently. I had their. I can't remember. I can't remember what they're called. They're quite boring looking labels. I had a friend who went to the Bref Beer Festival, brought loads of stuff back. We're currently on 29 minutes past. I don't know how long we've got seconds-wise, but we'll keep rambling on. But I'm going to say to everybody who's tuned in tonight, we've had loads of questions and loads of comments on Twitter and Facebook and on YouTube itself. We haven't done one of these in ages because it all seemed like a massive faff for ages as well. It's hard to get all these popular, educated, busy people together in one place at any time. But I'm really glad we did because it's always nice. It's like sitting down and having a bit of a chat with friends as well. So I'm really glad you made the time to kind of sit down and talk about Ace beer tonight. And yeah, so big thanks to everybody who watched. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Instagram. The ultimate Instagrammer.
Hold on, Instagramception. There we go. Get a picture of Instagram pictures. There we go.
I don't know if this works. It said we were meant to be on until past and it's still going, but we may as well sign off because you can get too much of a good thing. Big thanks to Jack. He joined us at last. It was well worth the effort.
Yeah.
Well worth all the wait as well, obviously. He's a star. Thank you very much, sir. Peter. It's a lot later in Denmark than it is in the UK, so I really appreciate you taking the time. We've got to do this more often, gents. Simon is working at 5 o'clock in the morning. He's drank about 7 beers tonight. He's only been to the bog twice. I'm surprised he's not got a dressing gown on. He usually has by this time of night. But I do appreciate you taking the time.
We have a private message board on the right-hand side, and we're able to kind of talk to each other privately on it. And I've been kind of writing piss time, and so you guys know what I've been doing.
But yeah, so I really appreciate everybody who's been involved in this. We will endeavour to do this more often. But yeah, it's great, super. I love it. I mean, drinking great beer with great company. There's nothing better. I'm Rob from HopZine.com. See you next time.
Can I just have one last word and say congratulations, Rob, on your new addition to the family as well.
Oh, yeah.
Very much. Cheers, my man. Cheers.
Papa HopZine. Papa HopZine.
You can come in. Clean his nappy at 2:30 in the morning if you want.
You know, I will totally do that for you.
Oh, thanks.
Cheers,
See you later, guys.
Well done, mate. Well done.
Cheers.